So you're thinking about moving to Michigan and you want to know about the best schools in Michigan. Well, in this video, we're going to give you a rundown of the best schools here in Michigan so you can understand what area is best for you and your children. Hello, welcome. My name is Matt Talbot. This is the Living in Detroit channel. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's video. In today's video, we're going to talk to people that are moving to Michigan or moving around Michigan, and they want to understand a little bit more about school districts. Now, as a licensed real estate agent, schools are kind of a touchy subject. In no way, shape, or form am I able to steer you towards or away schools. I'm not allowed to say this school is better than this school, blah, 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 blah. We can't say any of that stuff as real estate agents, so I want to be very, very careful that I do not do so along the way. That being said, we can note different articles that are out there, different pieces of information, and source that piece of information and deep dive to that area as a local expert, and that is the goal of this video. So according to niche.com is what we're going to reference in this video, the top schools in Michigan, and we're going to dive into a little bit about the housing statistics in that area, a little bit about the school districts, and my general rundown of that area. Being born here in Michigan and living in Michigan my entire life, we'll give you a rundown of those different areas, some different opinions, some facts, some details about those areas so you can have a list or at least understand what areas might be best for you and your family. First on niche.com's list of best schools in Michigan, the first one we're going to talk about today on their top list is going to be Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. So the population of Bloomfield Hills is 4,300. It's in Oakland County. It's about 20 miles from Detroit and consistently ranks in the top 5 wealthiest cities in the U.S. as well. We've talked about Bloomfield quite a bit on this channel. We've talked a lot about its location. It sits up Woodward from Detroit, about 40 minutes or so from the city of Detroit. You're about 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes from Detroit metropolitan area, and is, like the article states, one of the most affluent areas in the entire state and in the entire country. As far as the school district itself, there's 5,100 schools, 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, in an early childhood program. There's also a developmental center. And regarding housing statistics, so if you're thinking about a city like Bloomfield or that general area, the average price point of Bloomfield Hills is $915,000. That's residential only. Currently, days on market is about 26 days on market here in 2024 for Bloomfield Hills. What that means is it's the amount of days on average it takes to sell a house. So some homes sell in 2 days, some homes sell in a year. When we average all those out, we look at the average days on market. And here in Michigan, they are hovering around 30 days. So that's about average, or sitting in that sweet spot for what we're seeing in Southeast Michigan, about 30 days, give or take. Average price per square foot is $265 per square foot. So having the average price point at $915 and the average price per square foot at $265 shows that there's bigger homes throughout Bloomfield as well too. So there's a lot of big estates, big lots, big properties throughout Bloomfield Hills. And the different home types that we wanted to mention are mid-century moderns, which are beautiful. A lot of people really like those in today's world. Colonials, ranches, contemporaries, Tudors, split levels. There's some moderns out there. There's a lot of different options throughout Bloomfield Hills and some of the surrounding communities. In Bloomfield Hills itself, there's a couple different lakes. There's a lot of different country clubs in that area to kind of give you the lay of the land. If you deep dive into our channel, you'll see more information on Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, some of the surrounding communities, and you can deep dive on those areas as well too. That is Niche's number 5 on their list. Again, if you guys want to source this article, I want to make sure that we're referring to it on a consistent basis. Niche.com/K12/search /best school district /Michigan. Okay, so that's what we're sourcing. We want to, again, just give their list. We're just going to refer to their list and then deep dive into the area, and we can refer you to other videos so you can learn more about those areas to see if they're a good fit for you and your family. And if not, let us know. We can dive into any city that you like here in Southeast Michigan, show you around town, and give you a little bit of the local rundown here. Up next on our list is still here in southern Michigan. It is more like southern central Michigan. I don't know if that you call it that, but it's actually in our state capital. It's in Lansing, Michigan, which is within our general scope of work that we work on a regular basis here in Southeast Michigan, but not our core business, I would say. If you're looking in Lansing, we have other agents that we refer you to. However, this city is a suburb of Lansing, and that's Okemos. Population is 25,000, unincorporated community in Ingham County, 10 miles from Lansing, mostly Meridian Charter Township. So that's an interesting one, mostly Meridian Charter Township. So Okemos is kind of on the way to Lansing if you're here in Southeast Michigan, up 96. It sits in that general pocket of town. A little bit of a rural area, but again, only 10 minutes to Lansing. So there's still some things happening, but there's a big spread out area in Okemos as well too. As far as the school district, average graduation rate is 93%. There's 4,500 kids in the school district and an 18-to-1 student-teacher ratio, which is a really good student-teacher ratio. We talk about that a lot on this channel when we talk about high schools and colleges, as well as K through 12 schools as well. 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school in Okemos. So again, in that general Lansing area, not an area we talk about a lot on this channel. For the most part, we're focused on Southeast Michigan because that's where we live, work, breathe most of our time, although I do a lot of traveling throughout the state as well too. So Okemos housing statistics, a lot different than Bloomfield. Average price point, $436,000. That's residential homes only. Average days on market is a little bit higher at 38 days. So not selling quite as fast, but it's still a fairly competitive market. And again, price per square foot is significantly less as the home values are at $198 per foot. Now, at $198 per foot, that's not like an inexpensive area by any means. It's just when we're comparing Bloomfield Hills, that's going to be one of the more higher end price points throughout the entire state. So $198 per square foot is still above an average, I would say, for sure, as far as price per square foot here in Michigan. Again, those at least Southeast Michigan. Those of you who don't know, price per square foot is the total size of the total price of the house divided by the total size of the house gives you a price per square foot. It kind of allows to show you the expensiveness of the value in a certain area as well as home sizes, right? So if you have a higher price per square foot compared to other areas and you have a higher sale price, a lot of times you're going to be selling bigger homes, right? But there's certain areas like maybe pockets of downtown Detroit, or if you're in a different part of the country where you're right downtown and you live in a small condo, but the location is very, very expensive. So your price per square foot is going to be higher. For the most part in Okemos, like I said, you're going to have a little bit more spread out. So part of that price per square foot can be rolled into land value if you're buying bigger lots, but a little bit more of a rural area, suburb of Lansing, in a very sought out community. There's some newer construction homes there for sure, as well as colonials, Cape Cods, ranches, and contemporaries, a host of different options. But in a city like Okemos, there's going to be a lot of newer construction homes throughout that area. So niche.com ranks it in their top 5 here on their list that we're referencing here on today's show. Up next, this city is near and dear to my heart. My father's actually from this area, a lot of friends and family from the area, and we work very, very heavily in this part of town, and that will be Northville, Michigan. So this is in niche.com's top 5 list as well. Population of the city itself only 6,000, but you have the township as well too, which is much larger. Northville is an interesting one because it actually sits in Wayne and Oakland County, depending on where you're at in Northville. For the most part, Northville is in Wayne County all the way up until what we call Baseline Road or 8 Mile, and then the other side of 8 Mile turns into Oakland County. So there is part of Northville that sits in Oakland County, but the majority of it is in Wayne County. We actually have 3 clients right now, maybe 4, that are moving to Northville that found us on this channel. And a lot of our clients, we find a lot of times are working in the auto industry. A lot of times are working in one of the medical communities. We have a physician right now, and they want to be close to Ann Arbor, but not too far from the city of Detroit as well too. So a lot of times maybe like one partner works in Ann Arbor, the other partner works in Detroit. Northville is one of those communities that would kind of align with that. The school district itself, according to niche.com, 7,100 students, 21-to-1 student-teacher ratio, 7 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 1 high school, and graduation rate of 96%. We work very heavily with that district. It's a very, very competitive school district, very, very competitive schools. A lot of people from the general area try to get their kids there for different reasons. Very, very sought out area, very, very sought out school district, central location. You're about 30 minutes to Detroit metropolitan area. There's a reason why a lot of people move to Northville, Michigan. There's a reason why it's very, very sought out. And it's one of the areas we work in the most heavy, although we cover all Southeast Michigan, and we refer people throughout the state. It's one of the areas we cover most heavy here in Michigan, so we have a lot of people moving there. We have a lot of clients come in on this channel. We also have a lot of content if you deep dive. So when you're done with this video, you can click next or go to our playlist, and there's actually a playlist on Northville, Novi. We have a plethora of different videos on this area. Regarding housing statistics in Northville, so there's a few different ways to look at the data here, depending on how you look at, condos compared to residential, depending on how you break it down. There's a couple different ways to to look at Northville, Michigan, because there's some big, high-end condos as well too in a city like Northville. But average price point $668, and if you look at residential homes only in the city itself, you're looking at more than $800,000. Now, if you go outside of the city, it's lower. So if you look at the township as a whole and you combine Northville Township and Northville City, you're going to have a little bit lower. And if you look at all of Northville schools as well, that might affect the value as well too. So, there's a variety of different houses. Really, your starting point for most places in Northville is going to be like $350, which is about the average here in Southeast Michigan as a whole. And you're kind of going up from there. There's estates $4+ million. So a variety of different houses. But again, depending on what you're looking for, I can give you an exact price of, kind of price point. If you're saying 2,500 square feet, this many bedrooms, this many baths, I can give you a much more firm understanding. Hit us in the DMs if that's something that you're looking for any of these cities. We can give you more specific statistics. Up next is in a little bit of a different area. So we're going to move from Northville to Troy. Troy is a different city compared to a city like Northville as an example. So Northville has the city itself, which you gave some statistics on. Then we have the township, which surrounds it. Troy, for the most part, just has the city. I think there's a small pocket, or there is a small pocket that's also Troy Township. But for the most part, when we're talking about the city, it's kind of one area, okay? Different than like a Northville. So the population seems much bigger. But again, if you combine, Northville City and Township, it's competitive. But Troy has population 87,000. It is in Oakland County. Like I said, north of Detroit. It's 22 miles exactly from Detroit. For the most part, Troy's about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on traffic, from the city of Detroit. Has 1,000 acres of parks, and like I said, is north of the city. So according to niche.com, Troy has 12,400 students in the K-12 schools, which is 14 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, 3 high schools, average graduation rate of 94%, and an 18-to-1 student-teacher ratio. So this is a bigger city, a bigger area, and a little bit of a bigger school district as well too. We place a lot of families in Troy schools, or in this general pocket of town. There's a lot of businesses in that part of Oakland County and in the 75 corridor. So there's a lot of auto companies, a lot of tier 3 OEM suppliers. We work with tons of engineers in those parts of town. Troy's also not far from Beaumont Hospital, which is the biggest hospital in the state, I'm pretty sure, which is in Royal Oak as well too. So we work with tons of physicians and nurses at Beaumont, and specifically the Royal Oak campus. There's also a Troy campus too, now that I think about it. So a lot of times people work in the hospital systems are going to Royal Oak and Troy. A lot of our physician clients and stuff like that we place in that area. So very, very sought out area for a lot of different reasons. Troy has been a hot market, and I think will be a hot market in the foreseeable future, but it's been a hot market since I started in real estate, and it continues to trend in that direction in a lot of different ways. Housing statistics is, I believe, sort of competitive for the area because Troy's a more developed city. There is some new construction options, but some of the real estate's a little bit older than some of the other areas that we talked about to some extent. So a lot of times when people start looking at price points in Troy, they kind of look at the houses. They're like, oh, that's like all that I get. And to some extent, it just depends on the updates. A lot of Troy was developed in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that too. So there's only so much land for new construction. So a lot of times if you want a more modernly appointed house, or if you want something that just has a newer feel to it, a lot of times it's a renovated house. So don't be scared away in Troy if you see something built in 1993 and it's your 3,500 square foot house that you're looking for. Look at the inside. Don't be scared of the age and the build always in a city like Troy, because you're not going to get tons of new construction options, just as an FYI. Average price point, just over $500,000. That's residential homes only. Again, this is the most aggressive market that we've seen as far as days on market that we've talked about in today's video, 19 days on market. So, you're 2-3 weeks and off market on average. That means a lot of the nice move-in ready houses, you're talking about a matter of days. Average price per square foot, $227 per square foot. So again, competitive based on the home sizes and stuff like that. I kind of painted the picture that a lot of the homes were built, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. There are some newer construction homes in Troy for sure. There are some tear down areas. But again, there's a variety of different options when it comes to ranches, colonials, craftsman's, bungalows of those time periods. A lot of things happening. It's definitely a happening area, busy area. The roads can get a little bit congested from time to time, but But again, there's a reason for that. A lot of people want to be there. Niche.com says they have good schools. There's a lot of different reasons for people wanting to be in Troy in the general area. Troy, Michigan, Niche.com, great schools. Last but not least, on Niche.com's top list of schools here in Michigan is kind of going back to the other side of town. So we're in Troy, which is northeast of the city. We're hopping back to the other side of town, a little bit on the west side. And this city is Novi, Michigan. It's so funny when we see out-of-town buyers call us because they're like, hey, we're thinking about Northville and Novi. That's what they say. They see Novi. Or I'll talk to someone like a vendor, be like, hey, do you want to advertise in Novi? And I'm like, it's Novi? Anyway, just that's what it's called. N-O-V-I, Novi. That's how we pronounce it. I don't know if that's phonetically correct or not. But Novi is almost like a sister city of Northville in a lot of ways. But basically, you kind of have like Canton, and then stacked on top of that is Plymouth. So you have Plymouth Canton schools. Stacked on top of that is Northville, which has its own school district where I talked about. And stacked on top of that is Novi. Then you keep going from there, like cities like Walled Lake. You can go to Commerce. I mean, there's some other cities you keep going. But for the most part, those like 4 cities are very much stacked on top of each other. They all have cities and townships. Novi is a little bit different where the majority of the city is the city. Similar to Detroit, it has a tiny little pocket that's technically Novi Township, but it's literally like 100 houses or something. So Novi itself is pretty much the entire city. Population of Novi as a whole is 66,000. You're 25 miles from Detroit. You're about 35 to 40 minutes from Detroit. It is all in Oakland County, so all of Novi sits in Oakland County. There's also a lot of businesses in this part of town as well too. Some in Novi, but like up and down Beck Road in Wixom. If you keep going south, you go down to Plymouth. There's definitely some different tech OEM suppliers, tier 3 suppliers in those areas as well too. So a lot of times when people are looking at cities like Northville and Novi, they're an engineer, they work in that general area, and they want to be able to get to and from work and want to have all your shopping. You have your Kroger and your different grocery stores and your Walmarts and your Costco's and all that stuff is all throughout Southeast Michigan for sure. And so that's one of the reasons why Novi is so sought out. Another reason why it's so sought out, according to Niche.com, is that it is in their top 5 best school districts in Michigan here. So talking about the schools, 6,600 students, 7 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, 95% graduation rate, and 18-to-1 student-teacher ratio. So again, all these schools that they talked about are having these like high 90% plus graduation rates, and a lot of the very sought out schools. There's a host of other different schools throughout Southeast Michigan as well too, and throughout the state that are fantastic schools. Okay, so just because we're talking about these 5 from Niche.com, this is to give you some different flavors, some different options. This is of importance to you. That's the goal of this video. But again, there's a ton of good school districts in Southeast Michigan, a lot of great areas, a lot of different price points to consider. But Novi is definitely one of them for Niche.com's list. Last but not least is the housing statistics for Novi. So average price point, $459. This is crazy to me. Average days on market is currently sitting at 14 days on market. $228 as far as price per square foot as well too. So kind of competitive compared to some of the other areas. They're about in that $200 to $250 range. I know Bloomfield was quite a bit higher and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's competitive. Just to give you a lay of the land, we'll get some pop-up houses here for sure. In Novi, you have a lot of bigger homes and bigger subdivisions. That's what I think about when I think about Novi real estate. So big spread out subdivisions, some of them with very large lots, and a lot of them with very big homes, right? A lot of the homes in Novi, you'll see subdivisions from 3,000 to 4,500 square feet. There are other subdivisions as well too, where you have more of that 25 to 3,000 square foot houses and stuff like that. But a lot of Novi has big subdivisions, big estates, as well as, you know, some bigger lots as well too. So once you get like past Beck Road, it gets a little bit more rural. You're still in Novi. Can be some bigger acreage compared to, you know, the subdivisions themselves. One area that comes to mind is like an Island Lake. That's a very sought out area in Novi. It sits by Catholic Central High School. So since we're talking about schools, that's a local private school, all boys Catholic school. But Island Lake, as an example, is a huge community. It's the only lake in Novi. There's a huge fitness center and community center and like lots of big estates on the actual lake itself, tons of subdivisions around it and connected through the Island Lake community, as well as some bigger, nice high-end condos in that area as well too. So that's another example of a pocket of Novi that pops in my head. But for the most part, when I think of Novi real estate, although there's a lot more to it, you're thinking about like Beck Road through Taft Road or even past that, and really, you know, 11 Mile all the way down to like 8 or 9 Mile in there. I mean, there's tons of subdivisions in that general pocket throughout Novi. We do a lot of sales in there. It's a very, very sought out community for a lot of different reasons, especially if you're looking for a bigger home in a nice school district with a good amount of square footage for your house, Novi could be an area for you if it works in that general pocket of town. So niche.com, I think their list, their top 5 list here is a pretty good list to give you some different flavors of school districts in Michigan. Again, we work a lot in Ann Arbor. We'll go north of the city. We do stuff downriver. If you're looking at any of these other pockets of town, let me know. Just fill out the calendar link. You can shoot me an email, text. A lot of times people connect. They say, hey, I'm ready to buy a house. But we also get other connections of people that just have general inquiries, okay? So hit us in the comments or hit me at matt@listingmi.com. I will respond to you directly. You can also text me at any time, 734-404-7228. I will get you answers on specific areas and help you as much as possible, as much as I'm allowed to within our rules of regulations as real estate agents, within state law and federal law and all that stuff, of course, without discriminating or steering you towards any direction. But if you have questions on different areas, on different school districts, on what you're looking for, everything that I'm able to answer, that's what we're here for. Again, my team is the Redefined Real Estate team and the Talbot team. My name is Matt Talbot. I'm the associate broker here. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. Niche.com has a great list.